Hey everybody, this is my 55-gallon T-bar tank, and today we're going to do at least a before and after on a water change, a little bit of tank maintenance I'm going to do today. I say at least a before and after because I'm also going to attempt to get in there and get a little video of me doing what I'm really getting in there to do today, and that's clean all this crud off of the leaves on my Anubias here. I don't really know what that is. It looks like it might be black beard algae. It looks like it might have some cyanobacteria in it. I'm guessing it's probably a little bit of everything. And the rubber lip pleco I have in this tank, he is in there. I saw him as recently as yesterday. I was actually talking about thinking perhaps he wasn't in there anymore, and he made an appearance. So he is still in there, and he's doing his job as far as keeping the glass clean. The rocks look good, the woodwork looks good, but he is really neglecting the leaves of my Anubias here. Actually, now that I'm saying that, if we have a closer look right here at these leaves, you'll see that some of these leaves have been cleaned. You can see that there was filth on it, but there's even the scrape marks from the teeth. So he is in there doing something. You can see these really bright green leaves are brand new leaves, and they haven't had time to accumulate any of that filth yet. So what I'm going to do is probably my first method of attack is going to be to get in there with a small siphon. I'm going to use a standard airline hose. The reason I'm going to do that is because if I use my larger siphon hose, I just think the suction will be too great to deal with the leaves. It'll just grab the leaf, and I won't be able to actually remove stuff from the surface of the leaf. It'll just suck the leaf up against the vinyl tubing, and then that'll be that. It'll either tear the leaf or it'll just stop the flow of water because the leaf will be stuck to it. So I think the best bet is going to be to start with a really small siphon hose. I may get in there and use a little soft bristle brush, or I say an old toothbrush, and I don't mean one that's been used and might have, toothpaste and stuff still, little residuals left over. I really doubt that would hurt anything, but I wouldn't take that chance. I pick up a new toothbrush every time I go to the dentist, and despite the fact that I personally use an electric toothbrush, I more or less just collect the free toothbrushes I get twice a year at the dentist, and it's always nice to have a little brush to clean this, that, or the other thing, and I've used them many times. In fact, I'm sure I've got one sitting around in the room down here somewhere. I've got a little soft bristle toothbrush that I use for doing more delicate tank cleaning work. So maybe I'll get in there and do that. I'm reluctant to do that because I don't want to make this stuff angry. And what I mean by that is a lot of times algae, and a lot of different organisms really, but I know algae, at least a lot of species of algae, will start releasing a growth hormone if the organisms start becoming damaged. In other words, when you start scrubbing the algae out of the tank, all of the stuff that you're knocking loose into the water column, and remember, algae is a single-celled organism, so every single cell that's in the water, not just the ones you can see, not big clumps of green floating stuff, but every single cell of algae that's in the water is now supercharged for reproduction. And that's what I mean by you're going to make it angry. So a lot of times when you go in there to clean algae out of a tank, you wind up doing more damage than good, and you get yourself stuck in this cycle of scrubbing and scouring and trying to get algae out, and every time you do, you're just making it angry again, and you're spreading it all around the tank, and it's growing again, and that's not the right approach with certain types of algae. So since I don't know what I'm dealing with, I'm going to go gently, and I'm going to start with my little siphon hose, and we'll see what we can do with that. Again, I will try to do maybe some head cam. I might position the tripod. That's probably what I'm going to do. It'll be the best bet. I'll just sort of angle it stationary on a few of these leaves here, and I'll work on trying to get a few of them clean, and we'll be able to at least see what that looks like. And then of course we'll go ahead and have the after look at the end. So here's a broader view of the whole tank, and again, the T-bar has been in there doing his housekeeping, and he was actually in there moving some gravel around when I came in to start this video. So we'll see what happens. I'll try not to disturb him too much while I'm in there doing my water change. So sit tight, let me get started, and I'll see you in a minute. Alright everybody, let's see how well this works. Well, not very, because I am just getting stuck to the leaf like I was saying with the larger siphon, like I was afraid of. And it does not really seem to want to come off with scraping it even. This is really kind of on there. So now I'm beginning to wonder what this is, and I may have to resort to what I was afraid of, which will be actually just sort of scrubbing it with a brush. Yeah, this is really not wanting to do much of anything. Getting little bits and pieces of it. It's coming up, but not very much and not very quickly. I think we will be here for a very long time, and when I was done you probably would barely notice a difference. Well, I don't know. I'll keep working on it. We'll see how it goes. If I get frustrated, we can always switch and try something else. Maybe I can do a combination of the two, keep the siphon going, and yeah, see, I'm probably going to have to get in here and give that a little brushing with a toothbrush or something, which is going to get the water all funky. But I will get a regular siphon going for that, and I'll do a really big water change while I'm doing it, so hopefully we'll be able to pull a lot of the water out, and we'll just do the best we can. I know I'm going to make it angry, but you know, alright everybody, I've got the siphon hose at the other end of the tank. We're just going to use my regular old Aqueon siphon. I'm going to have to be careful here because a lot of this has the gravel that the T-bar is picking up. I'm having a hard time getting in at this angle too. I'm trying to stay out of the way of the camera. So I'm just using my regular old water change siphon, and I'm not going to attempt to get, you know, a siphon right here next to where I'm brushing or anything like that. It's just not feasible. I got to do this whole tank and all these leaves and everything in here from end to end. So I am just going to do a large water change and just sort of physically remove as much of this with, you know, via the water change as I can. I've still got the filter running, so it's going to continue to pull it out of the water column as it circulates around. And of course I got the UV light in the filter running. So all in all, I'm going to minimize what I'm doing, but you can understand what I mean here when you see what I'm doing, talking about making it angry and spreading it around the tank. You can well imagine how on a cellular level I'm spreading this to every single nook and cranny of the tank that you can imagine. And I'm doing so while increasing its growth and reproductive hormones. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to the tank after this. I do believe some of this is the cyanobacteria and not algae, though. I really do think this is a sort of mishmashy kind of stew of a lot of different organisms growing on these leaves here. Back when the Chinese algae eater was in this tank, I didn't have to worry about doing any of this kind of stuff. It's been a long time since I've had to manually scrub stuff like this out of the tank. At any rate, you got the idea. It's going to be a lot easier for me to do this if I don't have to keep trying to stay out of the way of the camera. But there's the basics of it. I'm going to go ahead and continue on with this. And in a few minutes we'll go ahead and see what the tank looked like when it's filled back up. Alright everybody, there you go. There's the final product. Now I didn't do a super thorough job on the leaves. I got in there and gave them a decent scrub. but I didn't go crazy with it. First of all, I just wasn't about to get in there and try to get every little last scrap off of there. Secondly, I don't want to flood the plant with light too much. I probably already did, and I doubt it's going to have a huge impact, but you never know. When you take a plant that, especially is a low light plant to begin with, like this Anubias, and then you take it from a low lighting environment and then you suddenly put it in very dramatic lighting, very intense lighting, then you can shock the plant. It can be pretty rough on it. And I know it might seem silly, but as much crud that was on these leaves really blocked a lot of light from this plant. So just by removing that, I've effectively, I've increased the amount of light this plant's getting tenfold. So we'll see if we have any shock from the sudden flood of light. I'm really not anticipating it, but that was on my mind. I know that sounds like an excuse for doing a sort of halfway job, but whatever. I actually, now that I'm looking around, I did miss a few leaves I probably could have got in there. I tried to get every one that was really gross and at least get some of it cleaned off, but you can see I've got that one down in there that it looks like I missed completely. And then I just noticed this one back here that looks like I missed completely. And then there's one or two down in the back over there that are still all gross and dark and funky. But the other thing I'm hoping with the semi-cleaned leaves is that that will be a good start for the rubber lip. And now that the rubber lip will have access to some surface area rather than just a pile of grossness, maybe it will continue keeping them clean. That's my hope anyway. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you'll be able to follow along and find out whether or not that rubber lip does its job and gets everything nice and clean for me. And don't forget, of course, this one is my T-bar tank. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you real soon in the next one.